All right, welcome. Hello, Nazreen, Andrea, great to have you. Welcome to our Facebook Live audience who's here joining us for our Inclusion Incorporated International Women's Day Facebook Live chat. I'm so excited to have you watching us today. I'm excited to be able to chat with Nazreen and Andrea. My name is Story. I'm one of the collaborators here with Inclusion Incorporated. Nazreen is one of our collaborators as well, and Andrea is our fearless leader extraordinaire, our Chief Inclusion Officer. So thank you both so much for being here today.
Exciting day. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's great to be able for all of us to come together and talk about what Women's Day means to us, to talk about the theme of choosing to challenge. But before we jump right into it, I was, interestingly enough, I was watching a bit of a documentary on the Russian Revolution literally last week, and this has come up a couple times. So in case for anyone watching who doesn't know, the origins of March 8th and the origins of some of the origins of International Women's Day actually started back around the Russian Revolution in 1917. But there are instances of women rising up all the way back to 1848. So it's really fun to look back at, these movements and these actions of women coming together, being strong. And it's amazing to think that there's over a century of instances where women have come together and created change. So this year, the theme of International Women's Day is choosing to challenge. We have both of you here today. So, as we think about the theme of choosing to challenge, what are some examples or moments that really stand out to you? And Andrea, how about we start with you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Story. And I just want to begin by acknowledging, first of all, that my pronouns are she, her, and hers, and also that I'm coming from the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, home to the Esquimalt, Songhees, and Wasanic nations. And as I say both of those things, I think those are both opportunities to reflect about why we're doing those things, and that those come out of people using their voices to challenge what has been done, to explain why we need to do different and how we show up for each other and create allyship. And so both announcing my pronouns and acknowledging territories are demonstrations of allyship and opportunities for us to think about how we're showing up for others. And so I'll just begin there. But I also think, when we look at gender equity and some of the challenges that women have faced, like, it was because people stood up and challenged that women vote today, right? So we have all of these. You started with some times in history where women have stood up, and we have to continue to stand up. And so we're here today. We have the opportunities we have today because we stand on the shoulders of those women that went before us, but also those men that listened and supported those changes happening. And so we have a lot of work to do. We're not anywhere near where we need to be today, but we have made tremendous progress. So we need to pause, celebrate that, to look forward, and to look at who we need to have allyships with to continue to move forward.
That's great. So that's amazing. And I think what a great way to start. And a really special way to start. So Nazreen, just a comment back for that. What are some examples when you think about International Women's Day? What does it mean to you?
Thank you. That's such a great question. And I like where Andrea is going in terms of allyship, that sort of piece, and how we work together and help lift each other up. My name's Nazreen. My pronouns are she, her. I'm calling in from the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And beautiful land also known as Vancouver. I recently just relocated here from Treaty 7 territory. And I feel like the Choose to Challenge theme is really about that warrior energy. And I say that as an Indigenous person to Morocco. And my greatest inspiration is this woman named Kahena, or Dia, which is the name of my Instagram, which you'll see later. Who was the last empress of the fallen Berber Empire. And she was known as being prophetic, a seer, a healer, a mother, a sister. and had so many roles, and also was very extremely powerful. And it was just such a unique role in history, sort of like the Joan of Arc of Morocco, if you will. And she, passed away fighting for what she believed in. I think that's really powerful. While I hope that's not what happens to me, I'm a far more sensitive soul. I think armor is cool, but I probably wouldn't be able to wear it. I think, that the fact that women have made these substantive contributions for the humanity of the people they support year over year, hundreds of years over hundreds of years is pretty amazing. And it's that we stand here today because of our grandmothers as well. So I wanted to acknowledge them.
Wonderful. That's such a great kind of segue into our next sort of topic and question is, as much as we really acknowledge and are so grateful for those who have come before us. There are some incredible people doing incredible things right now. And Nesreen, you've been really a big part of our kind of discovery of this from the Inclusion Incorporated side in terms of social media. You've been great about sharing with me specifically profiles that we should follow, people we should be interested in. So talk a little bit about how has social media given you more of an opportunity to discover people and messages and themes?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, when it was the thing, Reddit, they've all sort of made the internet into like everyone's Skillshare. And so they've really sort of removed the barrier that, for lack of a better word, capitalism created in our institutions, that makes money or finances the key to getting any information, and actually just democratized it. And that's really amazing. Marshall McLuhan says that the medium is the message. I think the message here is that women have disrupted social media. Women, gender diverse folks have disrupted social media, so their ideas and their visibility can be out there. I think many of us, thinking about the people that really inspire me on social media, one of them is Alok Vaid Monan, a non-binary human from the United States, who talks a lot about the intersections of feminism, intersectionality, racism, and gender politics, but does it in a really accessible and informational way. And that would be really hard to access unless, in the past, we would have had to be in maybe Alok's college town where they, went to school and were reading their poetry. But now it's much more accessible and you can engage with that person more directly. I regularly enjoy just the references and the support of different Instagrammers. For example, Rachel Ricketts is one person that I discovered recently, who has an incredible story as a lawyer, a queer woman, a Black woman, and so many other intersections, and is able to very fiercely talk about healing and mending relationship through the lens of anti-racism. And that's, again, something that I don't think would have been easily accessible for me unless it was on social media. And given the COVID times, I think it's just been the next best place for us to connect and to learn from each other and about each other. And I hope that our deep curiosity about each other has been sparked by COVID-19 and the pandemic and having a lot more time at home on our phones, unfortunately. But yeah, I think definitely I'll come back to that piece around visibility. If you see it, you can believe it. And then information being accessible to everyone and easy to download, to support, to follow is free. And that's really, really nice. So, yeah.
Thanks, Nesreen and Andrea. I have another question, but I want you to build on that from what Nesreen said. So, how has social media given you the opportunity to discover new voices, learn about new things, and how has that specifically impacted you as a leader, as a diversity and inclusion leader?
Yeah, it's interesting. I often kind of wrestle with the fact that I'm such a people person, and particularly in our COVID year, I've lost that personal, like in-person connection with people. But I've also at the same time met people that I don't think I ever would have imagined meeting if it hadn't been COVID and we hadn't been forced to do even more digital connections. So that's such a gift in so many ways. And one of kind of the lessons learned out of this year And to Nazreen's point, like, so many of the barriers to accessing information get broken down by some of the platforms that we're now using even more than we'd ever used them before. And I think about some of the conferences that are happening this year that, you know, normally you would have had to pay to travel to, and paid hotel costs and like massive conference fees, that are now online, either free or super low cost, and just so much more accessible. So you're getting to engage with and hear from leaders in a totally different way than what we normally would have been able to, I'll say, consume in our consumer society. And it's just completely changed the way that we're able to access people, information, content, and, you know, you layer that on with sort of the number of topics that have risen to the surface in social justice arenas around the time of COVID. And it's just like, wow, this collision of all of these opportunities for information. There really are no excuses to not access and learn during this time, other than you're not ready to learn or you're not interested enough to learn.
That's really interesting. So, Andrea, like, have you seen any maybe new conferences or new discussions coming out of, and specifically around allyship, intersectionality, that wouldn't have been able to exist if it weren't have for the last year of everything, of digital, of COVID, of justice movements? Are there any really big kind of, not necessarily conferences, but groups of discussions that have been happening?
I would say there's many. I don't actually know where to start with to answer that, because, you know, I think about even just like the Black North Initiative, right? And that has a platform because people, like, wrong or right, people are now paying enough attention that they recognize that this is needed. And despite marginalized voices telling us for years and years and years what they needed and how they wanted to participate, we haven't listened. And so now we have this opportunity where, you know, our awareness has been raised, people are listening, they still maybe don't know what to do, but now the voices that haven't had the opportunity to share or haven't been listened to are now being listened to. So it's really shifted the dynamic, particularly for people who identify as BIPOC, to raise their voices and share with us in a way that they haven't had access to before.
Great. So, so Nazreen, you talked about how a follow is free. So that's a way that we can show up for other people. What are some other ways that we can show up for other people online? We can't, you know, it's harder to do that in person, but how do we become allies on digital outside of being outside of clicking follow?
That's a wonderful question, and I think allyship is both is so many different things. It can be stepping with, stepping in front of if needed, standing behind. And so I actually think we should challenge people to build direct relationships with the people they're following, and actually use it to mimic that in-person real life experience as much as possible, because there's nothing that replaces that. So I can say that I follow 100, you know, pick a group activists, but I don't know any of them. I don't know their stories. I don't know their nuance. But perhaps it's taking that challenge and getting to know 2 or 3 of them if you can have a virtual coffee and actually see how you could help them in a substantive way with your resources. One thing I did over the summer is just an example. I turned my virtual birthday into a virtual fundraiser to help Pink Flamingo, which is an amazing organization out of Calgary that hosts queer events and has a BIPOC inclusive. And they were developing a mural, and they had a lot of community pushback about it. And I decided to turn my birthday into a fundraiser because I was like, my friends have, you know, probably have money, and they probably, you know, it was like $5 or whatever. They have time, and as a birthday gift, because they can't see me in person, they'd probably do this to support a community that I'm part of. And that was really, really awesome, because it took it from, I followed and liked something, first of all, and then I actually turned it into action and something really, really reasonable and easy. And it actually helped create such a beautiful mural. It's located in Calgary's Chinatown. If you are in Calgary, I'd definitely check it out. And it was painted by Jay Sterling, a local Black artist. So what you can actually still do actions as well. I think people have to remember that. And then I think it's actually making intentional space as well. So following is free, liking is free, but your time is expensive. So make sure that you intentionally spend your time actually reading the posts and actually reflecting. So that was one objective I set for myself for Black History Month, because I was like, well, I actually want to learn more this Black History Month, because I feel like I've always acknowledged it, but I don't feel like I've actually done a very good job. So I made sure to, if I saw a video I wanted to watch, I'd make 15 minutes in my day to watch it. If I was watching looking at a series of informational tweets or Instagram stories or TikTok videos, I would set aside 5 minutes to actually watch them and reflect on them and do maybe one of the exercises. And so that's another way you can actually take it out of social media as much as you can. And then finally, if there's any sort of what you might call mutual aid or fundraising activities, and you have the access and support, or if you want to even support someone's art, buy their art, pay to watch their burlesque show, whatever it is, make sure you engage as much as possible, if you can, with your dollars. And as well, if there's any way that you can, perhaps make a WhatsApp group for your community and make it more accessible for your community to access that information as well. Sometimes some of us need somebody to filter the information. I tend to be that person. For a long time, I just had a newsletter I would send to my friends, because I would just otherwise send them way too much information. So that's another way you can, again, translate it into something that's digestible, easy, and then you're actually moving into more action, not just online.
That's a great point. I really love how you sort of just make it really crystal clear and easy. There have been so many amazing online events that have happened, and it is, now, like, we're not going outside spending so much money we're not going out for dinner every single week, and we're not, going to the movies every week, or however we were spending our dollars. So there's a lot more money kind of sitting around that could be being put to good use, and online fundraisers, whether that's through an organization or personal, is such a great step to actually put some action behind what you say and how you feel and what you do. Andrea, so Nazreen talked a lot about kind of individually how we connect, how we show up. But a lot of our work with Inclusion Incorporated is corporate based, how we show up and how we change corporate cultures. So can you speak a little bit towards more of how do we change and how do we show up for each other in the corporate world?
Yeah, great point. And I'm going to say organizational change versus corporate change, just because I think the breadth of organizations that we work with is like really from grassroots all the way up to corporate. And so I love that continuum. First of all, I think it's really important because I think every organization and every leader can show up and make change in their cultures. And so I think it's really important to point out that it doesn't matter what size your organization is, you can take this work on and challenge yourself. I would also layer in that, we are so much about the stories and getting to know each other and building the relationships. And we both try and do that internally as an organization as we're building this beautiful team of incredible humans, but also as we're working with organizations, what do they know about each other? And what are they sharing about themselves? And how do we just start to really surface our similarities and our differences and appreciate and value those in order to move towards cultures of belonging? And last May, some of our followers will know that we started a conversation called Bridges of Belonging. And we're now 23 episodes in, and each one is bringing two leaders together who have very diverse lived experiences to just share their story so that we really start to think about what's our common humanity and what do we need to think about so that we can show up for ourselves and show up for each other to create these opportunities to move forward in a really different way. And this morning I had this incredible gift. One of the people who's been coming and watching Bridges for quite a long time, we hadn't really had a chance to catch up. We've known each other for probably 2 decades and we barely get to see each other, kind of have a conversation. And so we had a call this morning And it was so beautiful because she basically just started by saying, like, Bridges of Belonging changed my life. It has changed how I think about my work. It has changed how I show up. It has changed to who I want to be and the purpose I want to bring to my work going forward. And I was like, oh my gosh, what an incredible way to start International Women's Day. Like, we started these conversations because we believe that, but you're giving me this testimonial that, like, your path has changed because of this. So that's the work we're doing at Inclusion Incorporated.
What an incredible story. And that just, like, that to me goes back to Nesrine's point of, like, putting on the armor. Like, let's go. Like, let's I'm ready to take to the streets right now. Okay, this was great. Let's take to the streets and you know, sing and dance and yell and kick and scream. And wow, that's amazing. Like, that just,
yeah. Choose to challenge, right?
Yeah.
Do something different, push the envelope.
That's incredible. And it's actually funny because before this, I was doing another Facebook Live where I was talking to another woman, and she, without me prompting her and without me even bringing it up, she's actually talked about her story of finding belonging. And I was like, I was loving it. So anyway, so I think, like, these stories of belonging are really helping people show up, as you said, and finding and showing that, and kind of teaching moments and giving opportunity to people to be a little bit more authentic and be a little bit more truthful, and to stop and learn and breathe, which is so important, and to listen. I think listening is probably one of the most important things we can possibly do right now, especially to show our allyship and to, you know, understand where we sit and what we need to do and how we need to go forward. So yeah, just incredible conversations.
Can I just layer on, Nesrine talked about armor earlier as, like, actually the hardware armor, but like, it made me reflect back to so much of Brené Brown's work is around armoring up and how we sort of put on our armor and go to battle in these situations. And I feel like if 2020 taught us anything, it should be that this is such an opportunity to take off our armor, to be vulnerable, to show up for each other, to ask about each other and learn about each other, and to just be so curious every single day about who the people are around you, so that we can figure out how we show up for them and how we show up for ourselves, and how we begin with that concept of humanity to create belonging. And it just, that whole concept of armor is what we see around us every single day. And it's heartbreaking because we're missing out on the best parts of who we are.
Yeah, very well said. That's really beautiful. And I, as you were saying it, I completely agree. It's, you know, it gets really tiring to wear armor all the time, or to try to have to be someone else all the time. And absolutely, I think if this last year has taught us anything, that this is the time to stop and breathe and just explore who we really are. Mm-hmm. So who we are and how we show up is so important, but also, you know, talking and taking off the armor, but you don't need armor to be strong and powerful. So I'd love to hear about who are some women that, or non-male identifying people, humans that you look up to, that really inspire you and make you want to be a little bit better. So Nesrine, let's start with you.
Thank you. That's a wonderful question. And I was thinking about today. So I started listening to Alice Coltrane today. I don't know if anyone is really much into jazz, but she's amazing. So she creates this environment in this music, and it's just so powerful and so inspiring just listening to it. And it's these stories of these women like Alice who persevered in music, in whatever space they wanted to be in, and created the world that they wanted to create for themselves. And I talked about Dee at the beginning of the conversation. And that's definitely my energy. And that's somebody that I see as driving and visioning and seeing and going forward. Certainly my grandmother is my world. I love her so much. She lives so far away and it super sucks, but she's hilarious and wild and has tattoos on her face. And like, she's unlike anybody I've ever met in my life. But she's respected and her family loves her. And I think, you know, those are just the tender and genuine things we all want at the end of the day, is that connection with others and the ability to feel like we've made something at the end of it once we slide into our graves. Certainly the two of you on this call are incredible. Both of you are giants in your field and continuously want to improve yourselves and have so much energy for this work. And that's also very inspiring. I think folks who are up and comers, I would love everyone to check out. So my very dear friend, Sarah Jackknife, is somebody I think everyone should check out if you can, on LinkedIn. She is from Northern Alberta, the Queen Elizabeth Métis settlement. I think I may have messed that up. Sorry, Sarah, near Cold Lake. Incredibly smart young public policy leader who will do amazing things. Certainly, I would also recommend, like I said, Rachel Ricketts, Adrienne Marie Brown, Sonia Renee Taylor, or all people are in my milieu. I think about a lot. Maya Angelou forever breaks my heart and builds me up in a lot of ways. And certainly my own mother has demonstrated such power and strength throughout her life. And I think, and I'm excited for what our next generation will show us about what it means to be a woman and what it means to be feminine and what it means to have gender diversity. And I would say just everybody who is excited to deconstruct gender and all of those cool things and do whatever the heck they want, I'm excited for all of them too. So yeah. I'll pause there.
That's wonderful. That's a laundry list. So we'll have to get that list from you, or we'll type it out and make sure that it ends up somewhere. I know we shared a couple of those profiles to Instagram and Facebook earlier today. So we'll have to see if we can build on that. Andrea, how about you?
Whew, it's intimidating. Intimidating partially because I always struggle with like, okay, I don't want to leave people out, right? I'm all about bringing people in. I do first just want to acknowledge my mom, who has been an incredible role model and just always has challenged me to push beyond my limits. And so I'm super grateful to have such a strong and smart mom. And now as a mom of a daughter, I am like fiercely trying to instill in her all of the things I want her to believe and be open to in the world. I do just want to recognize, though, our Inclusion Incorporated team. And I know Nazreen paid some tribute to You and I story, but I started this company really wanting to have like a really feminist leadership approach to it and really thinking about how we take care of each other all the time and elevate strong female leaders or people identifying as female. And it took me a long time actually to start to add males to our team, partially just because I wanted to kind of build some female voices first. And so we've been doing that. And now as we grow, we're building a really beautiful team of really incredible humans. And I'm so proud of that. And I know that some of my the women that I've been working with across the America's Paralympic Committee group have joined this call today, and they inspire me all the time. We have a WhatsApp group, and we're constantly sharing things and supporting each other. And so we have this group of 20 women across Central and South and North America that are just this little team, and it's just a really beautiful opportunity to connect with them and to share and to learn from each other and support each other, because all of this work is hard and you need a good little group around you to kind of support you and lift you up. And so on that note, I'll just finish by recognizing Karen O'Neill, who's the CEO of the Canadian Paralympic Committee, who I gave a shout out to on social today. And she has been an incredible support for me for many years, but over the last year in particularly, just a fierce advocate and believer in what I could do with starting all of this.
That's wonderful. And I, listening to both of you, I'm just so like lost in your words and in all of the great ways. It is such a gift to be able to work with both of you. It is a gift to be able to work with our team, with this organization, with and learn, because I have a very traditional sports background, and to be able to work with so many, which is traditionally white males, middle-aged white men. So, to be able to work with so many incredible humans, with a big push on the feminist leadership side, has taught me so much and has given me personally a lot more space in my life to bring other women into my world. And I think for the first time ever, 2020 was the first time ever I've made more female friends than male friends in my 30 odd years of life. So, and I think it's largely due to the work that we're doing and to the conversations that are happening. So anyway, so that's a kind of a great way to wrap up. Just some final thoughts from both of you on International Women's Day. We're about, for us and for me at least in Vancouver, it's almost halfway through our day. So as we look to what the conversations that have happened, and what are some conversations you're excited about that will happen? So Andrea, let's start with you.
I was hoping you'd start with Nazreen because she always has such incredible things to say.
You can throw it to Nazreen. I just wasn't sure. I was like, it's a hard question to answer.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm excited that we're talking about what we need to do around gender equity. I'm excited that we are really being more intentional about lifting each other up. I'm excited that we're talking about allyship and how we show up for each other and are really active in the roles we can play to support each other and to challenge the systems and structures. I think that we still have a really long way to go. I think that the pandemic has disproportionately impacted women, and women facing additional barriers even more so. And when we look at, the number of challenges that women of color are facing, Indigenous women are facing, women with disabilities are facing, we just have so much more work to do. And I believe it's possible, but I only believe it's possible if we all stand together and work together and create the opportunities to really build something different together. We can't go back to what we've been doing because it clearly is not working. And so how do we kind of not fall into those same traps? How do we really take that time to take our armor off and to show up for each other and to learn about each other and to create these really rich pathways forward that are like are kind of like a tapestry of each other's gifts and talents and what we all bring to the table.
That's beautiful. Nazreen.
I'm so blown away. Thank you, Andrea. That was so beautiful. Everything Andrea said, and I think there's a part of this that's both us who are, in these spaces right now, working with clients and through Inclusion Incorporated, doing this equity, diversity, inclusion work, auditing stuff, making things better, that sort of thing. And also thinking about that intergenerational future. So when our kids have kids, what are they going to see at the end of the day? And that's the fire and the curiosity that keeps me going. And that happens with partners like, Story and Andrea, and you've both been help give me a platform to stand up and stand in my power. And that's part of allyship. So I think really great allyship really needs to keep happening, really hard work in allyship, lots of awkward conversations, lots of asking questions. And then wanting to, and knowing that this change, this future is going to take many generations, and we're just at the scratching the surface. And we have also so much to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. That's such a great way to end. I am so excited for the rest of the day. I am so excited for the rest of the week. I am so excited. I'm so excited for what this conversation will look like a year from now. And being able to do this with you today has been such a gift. So thank you both for doing this, for joining us. I will end with an incredible quote, and we've seen a lot of G.D. Anderson quotes hanging around, but I think this one kind of sums up our conversation better than I could have actually ever imagined. So in the words of Gigi Anderson, feminism isn't about making women strong. Women are already strong. It's about changing the way the world perceives that strength. So thank you very much to both of you. Happy International Women's Day. For those of you joining us who don't know already, we are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can find us at inclusionincorporated.com. Please head over there. We've been sharing some amazing content today of humans that you should follow, humans who are doing great work. So please give us a follow. Please hang out with us, and very much looking forward to talking more about these conversations and following this up in the air. Thank you.